I've never really believed in the paranormal. I'm the kind of person who needs evidence, logic, things I can explain. But what happened to me and my dog Max back in 2019 changed that completely, and I still don't sleep the same. I had just moved to Eugene, Oregon, a small, quiet place with thick trees, misty mornings, and a kind of calm I thought I needed after a rough breakup. The house I rented was older but charming. One bedroom, wooden floors, a fenced backyard. And after settling in, I adopted Max, a big German Shepherd mix from the local shelter. Sweetest dog ever, protective but gentle. I felt safe for the first time in a long time. But that feeling didn't last. About a week in, I noticed something weird. Max would just sit and stare at the living room wall, not like he was looking around or sniffing something. No, he was focused, eyes locked, no blinking. Sometimes he'd growl, a deep, steady growl like something was there. It wasn't playful. It wasn't like barking at a squirrel. It felt off. At first I told myself it was just mice or maybe pipes creaking in the walls. Old house stuff, right? But then it started happening every night, around 3 a.m., almost on the dot. One night I was woken up by Max barking like crazy downstairs. Not just barking, he was lunging at the wall, snapping his teeth. I ran down, heart racing, and when I turned on the light, there was nothing. Just him, pacing, tail rigid, growling low under his breath. It took me almost half an hour to calm him down. That's when I decided to record what was going on, just to prove to myself that I was imagining things. So I set up my phone on the coffee table one night before bed, pointed at the wall, and hit record. The next morning I opened the footage, and my blood went cold. At 3:26 a.m., Max walks into frame, stares at the wall like usual. Then, clear as day, I hear it. Knocking. 3 soft knocks, coming from inside the wall. Max goes totally still. Then a dark shape, like a shadow, just moves across the far corner of the room. There was no light on, no movement from me upstairs. It wasn't car headlights or anything like that. It was inside the house. I couldn't even finish watching the video. I packed a bag, grabbed Max, and left. I never went back to that house. I broke the lease, didn't even pick up the furniture. I didn't care. Later, a neighbor told me the last woman who lived there had a dog too. It died suddenly, and she moved out fast, just like I did. It still gives me chills. And even now, years later, Max will sometimes just stop and stare at a random wall in my new house. But I tell myself, it's nothing, because that's what helps me sleep. This one's the story I almost didn't share. Not because I'm scared to talk about it, but because I still can't explain what happened. It was back in 2017. I was dating someone at the time, Emma, and we'd just moved in together. She had this African grey parrot named Toby. Super smart bird, could mimic voices perfectly, could even laugh like her. I used to joke that if I ever made her mad, she'd train Toby to mock me for the rest of my life. At first, things were great. Toby would greet me when I came home, say things like, "Hey babe," or "Where you been?" in Emma's exact voice. It was funny, even comforting in a weird way. But one night everything changed. Emma was out late with friends. I was home alone, watching TV in the living room. Toby was in his cage in the corner, quiet, just preening like usual. Around midnight, I turned the TV off and started heading to bed when I heard it. "Help me." I stopped. It was Emma's voice. I thought maybe she'd come in and I didn't hear the door, but no, the house was still empty. Then again, from behind me, "Help me, he's in the house." It was Toby, sitting in the dark corner, staring at me. His voice, Emma's voice, was panicked, shaky, like she was terrified. I turned the lights on, walked over to his cage and said, "Toby, what did you say?" He just looked at me, silent. Then, in a deep voice I had never heard before, he said, "Don't listen to her. I swear to you, it didn't even sound human. It was distorted, cold, not like anything Toby had ever mimicked." I backed away, heart racing. The next morning I told Emma everything. She went pale. She said, "That's exactly what I heard in my dream last night. I was trapped in the house, screaming for help, and something whispered that exact line to me." We both looked at Toby, and he was just staring, completely still. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. Toby started speaking in voices we didn't recognize, low, mumbling tones, like conversations were being repeated from a room we couldn't see. One time he laughed in a child's voice. Neither of us had kids in our lives. We eventually had the house blessed. And Toby? He stopped speaking entirely for 3 months after that. Like whatever was inside him, left. We rehomed him with an experienced exotic bird specialist who believed in spiritual attachments. She told us parrots sometimes absorb energy in places where traumatic events happened. We moved out not long after. And to this day, when I hear parrots mimic voices online, my stomach knots. Because I'll always wonder what else they're repeating, and who or what is really speaking through them. This happened back in 2015 when I was staying with my aunt in rural Pennsylvania. I'd just finished college, didn't have a job yet, and she offered me her guest room while I figured things out. She had this old house, creaky floors, drafty windows, and a long attic that stretched across the entire top of it. It was the kind of place that always felt like it was holding a secret. Now my aunt had a cat named Jasper, all black, sleek, and weirdly quiet. He never meowed, just stared. He'd follow me with his eyes every time I walked through the hallway, like he was watching something behind me. But what still haunts me is what happened on the third night. I was lying in bed around midnight when I heard Jasper sprint down the hall. Cats do that, right? Zoomies. But this sounded different, panicked, like he was chasing or running from something. The claws against the wooden floor, click, 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 got louder, and then suddenly stopped, right outside my door. I froze. Then I heard him hiss, loud, angry, like he was in a full-on fight. I opened the door slowly, nothing there, just Jasper, arched up, fur puffed, staring at the ceiling. That's when I realized he was staring at the attic door hatch above the hallway. I didn't even know it opened from there. I called for my aunt, but she wasn't home that night. She was working a night shift at the hospital. So I grabbed a flashlight and pulled down the ladder to the attic. The moment I poked my head up there, I felt it. Cold. Not temperature cold, but like the air didn't want me there. I swept the flashlight around, dust, old boxes, a mirror leaned up against the wall, and then I saw it. In the mirror, a shape behind me, tall, still, watching. I whipped around. Nothing. I slammed the hatch shut and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning I told my aunt everything. She looked weirdly calm, like she already knew. Then she said, "That's where Jasper goes when he disappears sometimes. He watches that spot every night." I asked her why she never said anything. She just shrugged and said, "I've lived here long enough to know when something doesn't want to be bothered." I moved out a week later. Jasper still lives there, still quiet, still staring, and I still wonder what he sees that we don't.